The Honourable Sandra Carr.
Thank you, President. I will keep it brief because I know everybody is ready to go home. But I just thought from following, thank you for those words of support. The honourable member, I always appreciate hearing from you across the floor. Oh, I apologise. I always get there's so many Stephens in this chamber. But anyway, we digress. Following on from my honourable colleagues' statement about one fabulous Ms Taylor, I thought I'd speak about another. I saw on social media today that Ms Taylor Swift has announced a world tour and Perth is included on that schedule. But it got me thinking, about some of the popular culture that we experience and having seen that online, and that made me start thinking about a motion that we heard today that was couched in words that said extraordinary levels of concern. And I was thinking about it and I was looking at the motion and I was thinking maybe in terms of popular culture, even Taylor Swift might have something to say. And the song that sprung to mind for me was one that's quite popular at the moment. You would hear it on the radio and I'm sure the tune will pop in your head when I say it, but it's the words, "You need to calm down." So you'll see when some members speak, they get particularly riled up. But I looked at the motion and I thought I'll put it under the microscope of the pop culture, the three pillars. Is it true? Is it necessary? Is it kind? And I felt like as a teacher, it didn't pass on any of those levels either. I gave it a D. I thought is it true? It was disingenuous at best. Is it necessary? I thought it was profoundly disrespectful to the intention of the Act, and that was in terms of respecting and preserving our incredibly precious Aboriginal cultural heritage, something that we haven't done very well historically, despite legislation that exists to do that for 50 years. So I thought, no, it wasn't necessary, it was disrespectful. Is it kind? No, it was divisive. It was intended to be divisive. And I can make that claim because Taylor Swift gave me another bit of licence to do that in her song. And one of the lines is, the song is about attacking people using social media, and one of the lines is, "But you say it in a tweet and that's a cop-out." So I'm going to read you a tweet from the Honourable Neil Thompson, and it's talking about the legislation. It says, "Simpler and fairer, what a sick joke. Mums and dads," and I'll be doing the body language, "mums and dads should check the regs for the next beach trip after a Tier 2 permit might be needed when your child builds a sandcastle on the beach," assuming it involves more than 20 kilos of sand, of course, but I'm assuming it's been a while since the honourable member built a sandcastle. "Your 2-year-old should be okay, provided they do a due diligence assessment." I mean, you don't want another Duke and Gorge, do you? Maybe the kid should sign up for the board of Rio. Wow. The words of the motion say extraordinary levels of concern. If that isn't someone trying to beat up a bit of extraordinary concern, I'm just going to use the lines of the Taylor Swift song, "But you say it in a tweet and that's a cop-out," and I'm just like, hey, are you okay? I feel like those lines are right, because then one of the other tweets I saw was one from the honourable member saying, "Labor's immature and disgusting weaponisation of everything is getting really boring. People have had enough of this divisive style of politicking. You can't hide incompetence anymore." And I started to feel confused whether he was writing in his diary or whether he was writing a tweet. And I say again in the lines of Taylor Swift, hey, are you okay? And then he seems to conflate the legislation with what shouldn't be a political issue, the voice to Parliament. And in a post he writes this, "Labor elites must be very worried about this, especially noting that 44% of Labor voters are either a no or undecided. This is an internal Labor crisis of Labor's own making." Yet the Honourable Neil Thompson says he wants to be a voice for Indigenous Australians. But what we say is that they have their own voice. And that is what the legislation, or that the referendum is designed to do. And conflating the Australian Cultural Heritage Act and the voice is disingenuous, disrespectful and completely unnecessary and unkind, and completely dog whistling, as has been suggested, to the broader community. It's something that's happening on the internet, and I note that the federal member for Durac's involvement as she continues her 3-year holiday around the Durack electorate is that she also has been posting the petition to her page and encouraging people to sign and tagging the Honourable Neil Thompson, and she talks about on her Facebook page the Australian Cultural Heritage Act, saying that it places substantial compliance obligations on farmers who may then face a complicated and potentially costly process before carrying out basic tasks like fencing or deep ripping. She talks more about the Act and its impact on farmers. But we heard and we've seen the department and ministers talking about the process. We've seen information distributed to say it isn't that complex. And I also note that the member for Durack, who is working side by side with the Honourable Neil Thompson, was a lawyer before she entered Parliament. She's been an MP for many years. So I think it's fairly safe to assume that she knows and can read legislation, and also that she knows what a misrepresentation is. Because in one of her workshops, in one of her other Facebook posts, she talks about one of the informational workshops that was held in Geraldton. And it's got a photo on it that says, "The Geraldton workshop for State Labor's controversial ACHA is now on. There's a general feeling of unrest in the room and the community is making their voices heard." And there's standing room only. Now, I'm thinking that, assuming from hearing that, you would assume she was in the room. But what she fails to mention is much like when the environmental catastrophes such as the mass disc kill in Menindee in the far west of New South Wales, and when the World Heritage areas were burning during the Tasmania's bushfires when she was the Environment Minister, she was missing and she wasn't there, just like she wasn't at that meeting that she represents on the page that she was. I feel that the extraordinary level of concern has been agitated and stirred up, and that it's a misrepresentation of the situation to say that this is, as the honourable member put it, a terrible law. I believe that he needs to calm down, he needs to support the groups that he's standing up to support or claims to be supporting, and take a helpful rather than a hurtful approach. He needs to calm down.